Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the November 7th, 2016 Board of Education meeting. Mr. Calavano.
Roll call. Mr. Charles?
Present.
Mrs. Labb?
Present.
Mrs. Mordecai?
Present.
Mr. Robertson?
Present.
Mr. Schwartzfeld?
Present.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Notice of meeting. Please take notice that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided for in the following manner. That a written notice was sent from the Office of the Secretary of the Board at 4 p.m. on January 5th, 2016. That said notice was sent by regular mail to the West Orange Township Clerk and the editors of the West Orange Chronicle and the Star Ledger. That said notice was posted in the lobby administration building of the Board of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Calavano. May I have a motion for consideration of the closed and public meeting minutes of October 19th, 2016?
I'll make
I'll
a
make that
motion.
motion.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Rutsky, Superintendent's report, please.
Thank you. We're going to start by asking the board to sit in the audience. We're going to provide the violence, vandalism, weapons, substance abuse, and HIB report, followed up by the professional development day that's happening on Wednesday. So if I can just ask you to please relocate into the audience. Okay, this is a 5-year comparison, and this is a required document from the Department of Education to indicate our violence, our vandalism, weapons, substance abuse, and HIB. And you'll notice on the far left is the year 11-12 and 12-13, 13-14, 14-15, and then obviously finishing with the 15-16, which is last year's results. We also broke it up so you'll notice the violence is in the red, then the vandalism is in the black, and weapons is in red, just so we can separate it out and see it a little bit better. Now, I do want to indicate a really important piece under the violence. You will see that there was a spike from 13 and 14, we had 25 incidents of violence, 14, 15, 21, and last year 47. We have an appeal in to the Department of Education because we are disputing 10 of those violence reports. So this number, while it is being reported tonight, it is not going to be the one that we are going to settle with because we do not believe that that is the accurate number. As you move across and you look at the vandalism, you'll notice that 5 years ago it was 9, 12, 16, 5, and back to 12 again. So one of the things we always look at is the wild card number, and you'll notice back in 14-15 that it went down to 5. So when you look at 2 years prior, you were at 12, then up to 16, and then this year 12, so that's a fairly consistent number. Weapons, 7, 9, 4, 8, and 2. Substance abuse, 35, 47, 23, 29, and 33, and then HIB, 53, 47, 67, 30, and then finally 37. So let me talk a little bit about each one of these. For those that don't understand this report, there is specific criteria that goes along with the 5 categories. And one of the issues that we always need to address is the weapon area. And please understand that that doesn't mean that it's about a gun or a knife. That weapon could be considered a pencil that a child takes and uses and hits somebody or stabs somebody with. That's actually considered a weapon at that point. And I don't want people to get nervous and say that there are two weapons that are reported here. They must be a knife or they must be a gun. It doesn't mean that at all. So we want to make sure we clarify that properly. With the substance abuse, it's very, very important that we recognize kids are going to make mistakes. And the schools in particular do a very fine job working with the students to make sure they understand the dangers of substance abuse and using substances. So when we're talking about 23, 29, and 33, the number being higher gives us an indication that we need to look at what we're doing to determine is it the most effective way of approaching students and talking to them about the dangers, but also how good a job that everybody's doing at identifying the students who need that help. So we want to make sure that we're not thinking, oh my goodness, we have so many children that have an issue with substance abuse. That's not the case at all. And please remember, in this building in particular, we're just under 2,000 students. And then you take that down to the middle schools. And again, this is a K-12 report. So if there is an issue at the middle schools, it is reported in here. This is not just about the high schools. And then lastly, with the HIB, the first couple years HIB was new to everybody, and the training was something that we were trying to figure out what needed to be done to make sure that we were implementing the law correctly. So we're at 53 and 47 and 67. And then a lot of training has taken place to make sure that, number one, we're providing programs that are going to help students understand how to get themselves out of situations so it does not become a case of HIB, but also for the administrators to understand so they know how to properly report it. And if it is a case of HIB, then put things in place to help the child or children. And if it's not a case, then obviously it comes up as it's an unfounded case. So at this point, it's a very basic, broad kind of overview of the requirements of it. And I'm not going to take questions right now from the board because we're going to do one other presentation, then I'll invite the board to come back up. And then we'll do questions on both this presentation and the November 9th PD Day. So if I can invite Mr. Mendez to come up to the podium so we can go over the PD Day. We're not going to spend a lot of time. We just want to make sure everybody understands the PD Day and the tremendous amount of work that's gone into it from Mr. Mendez and the supervisors in particular to make this day a worthy day, which is coming up. Mr. Mendez.
Good evening. On November 9th, Wednesday, we are having our in-district professional development day. And we're very excited about all of the offerings we're able to offer the West Orange staff. Mr. Rutsky encouraged us to ensure that all of the professional development offerings are meaningful and relevant to the different content areas. And so therefore, on our catalog, you'll see all of the different staff members by department, by area that are receiving professional development workshops throughout the day. We have AM, we have PM sessions, we have full day sessions. Again, very relevant to the content areas. For our administrative assistants and clerical aides, we're looking at technology, Power School purchasing manual. We have our athletic trainers receiving professional development in the area of language arts literacy. We're looking at the continuum at F&P, assessment in ELA. In math, we're looking at CMP and bar modeling and areas that really address algebra. You'll see that most of these areas, if they're not directly offering additional support to teachers across their content, they are aligned to our strategic plan goals. So you'll see some alignment there to our strategic plan goals. We are integrating all of our areas, whether they're basic skills teachers, special education teachers, our paraprofessionals. We are integrating them throughout the day, as well as offering cross-content professional development. And so then you may have areas such as basic skills, which will receive professional development specifically for their area, as well as integrating them into math and ELA. And so the catalog has been distributed to our teachers. We do have a website online on our webpage. And so when we go, the teachers can go right to the catalog. If they click on the title of the catalog, they can log in so that they can sign into sessions. We can't see it here because it's not going to be live until Wednesday, and they can also take their evaluations of the survey evaluations of the workshops, which is going to be helpful for us as we move forward, so we can get some very clear direction on where we're headed and what they'd like to see next, including some choice. We also have some mandated training happening, our suicide prevention, grades 6 through 12. Everyone will be able to complete their suicide prevention training. They will be logging on to our online tutorial portal for that training, and our elementary staff will receive that training in December. And so that pretty much sums it up. Also, presenter resources, you'll see that this will be populated once we come into the PD on the 9th, and what that will be is every PowerPoint or handout and all of the workshop resources will be available to the staff online, and we'll continue to build our PD as we go through the years.
If you remember, this was designed last year when we began to finalize the calendar and we knew that this was a presidential election. The board agreed that we needed to have tomorrow off to make sure that our schools were normal and safe. And then we had this Wednesday sticking in between the presidential election and the NJEA convention. And this is where this came from. So we're very excited about it. The only unfortunate piece is we were looking at doing something different and hoping to have lots of teachers lead sessions and provide choices for the entire staff and all the employees across the district. Once the contract is settled, we're going to be able to get back to that. That's a very important component, to let the expertise of the teachers work with their own peers to know exactly what needs to be done, and being able to sign up for what interests you and what is aligned to what you're currently doing. So in the future, that's where we'll be going with this. In the meantime, I think you will find that this is a very nice offering. Again, Mr. Mendez and supervisors have done just a tremendous job in putting this together, and we did a lot of work the last couple of days making sure the technology is ready, and we don't have any issue with that. So what I'd like to do is invite the board to come back to their seats. We'll have questions on both of these items, and then I'll continue with my superintendent's report. Can we just turn this row of lights on, please? Thank you.
Okay, first, any questions or comments from the board on the violence, vandalism, weapons, substance abuse, and HIB report?
I have a comment or a question.
Okay, Mr. Charles.
Mr. Rutsky, once the children have been identified with the substance abuse, does the district offer any avenues for treatment or programs once they've been identified?
Well, we do. Again, once it's identified, there's different ranges of how things are handled for the students. They're obviously, the most important thing is we're providing the help that the child needs, and that could be as much as sending a child out to a facility to make sure that he or she is getting the help they need, to things that could be happening after school, during school. So it's a range, and it just depends on the situation.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Mordecai?
I had a similar question, but I'm going to go with my next comment. How often is the training, the PD, for faculty and staff for HIB as well as substance abuse?
It's every year. It's something we do every year, and we make it part of when we have new staff come into the district. It's something we work with them to make sure they understand their responsibility. It's a larger responsibility for two individuals in particular, and that's the anti-bullying coordinator and the specialist. So those two individuals are required to be trained every year.
And just for the public, I know this, but do we have an anti-bullying coordinator in each building? I know it's rumored that we don't have any.
We do. We have a coordinator and a specialist at every building, and they are the ones that take care of the situation when something arises.
Thank you.
Just to follow up on Ms. Mordecai's question to you, Mr. Rutsky, the training that's provided to the staff, this is guided by the Department of Education, or is this local?
It's directed by the Department of Education.
Okay.
Again, it's a requirement that it gets done every year.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Schwartzbaum?
Can you talked about on the violence that there's a challenge of 10. Can you just first talk about what is who reports the violence, what's the process, and the nature of the challenges?
Sure. It's a situation that there's a form that the Department of Ed requires if something would happen. Then there's a host of categories under each of these 5 areas. And if one of those categories are met, then you have to check off that it's met. And then you have to go through the process of completing that paperwork. It is then sent to central office, and it is then recorded as the event took place or as the situation took place. And at the end of the year, that document gets sent down to Trenton and to the Department of Ed.
And the nature of the challenge of 10. So the process was that it was reported by the school, went to central office, reported to the state. Now, what is the nature of challenging 10?
The issue is that I do not believe that 10 of those cases that the Department of Ed said were violence are violence. So we're appealing and challenging those 10. Because, again, it's not so much whether it took place or not, it's the PR kind of behind it. That if it happened, it's one thing, it happened, then let's address it and let's figure out what we need to do to try to combat the situation. But when we don't believe it actually took place and they've reported that it did, then that's why we're putting the appeal in.
Okay. Mr. Robertson?
As I'm looking at the numbers for substance abuse, and I see that for Liberty and Roosevelt, the numbers are not very high year over year. They range from 0 to 6. And then we see a sharp spike in high school. Now, granted, kids are going to be exposed to much more in high school. Could this also indicate that we're not doing as well in actually exposing issues of substance abuse in middle school? Because that's a very, very sharp spike.
Yeah, we've looked at that, and we've done a lot of work with that piece at middle school to make sure that students do understand it. And again, there is the opportunity at middle school. There's just less of it. And at high school, that's pretty traditional and pretty consistent that when you do hit high school, this number goes up across the state. But yes, we are doing a lot of work at Liberty and Roosevelt to make sure that the kids truly do understand the dangers of substance abuse.
Thank you.
And just to confirm, Mr. Rutsky, these are incidents, not necessarily individuals. So you can have an individual who is a repeat offender, and you might have 5 students doing 15 incidences.
That's correct.
Okay.
This is not an individual student. It could be one student doing it multiple times. That's correct.
Okay, and just as a point of record, our HIB policy, which is direct from school boards, is about a 15-page document. It's pretty comprehensive. So I thank the administration for the report and adhering to the policy that has been directed to us from school boards.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Any other comments from the board on this matter?
No, thank you.
Okay. Moving forward to comments and questions from the professional development. First, again, I would like to thank Mr. Mendez and Mr. Rutsky and the supervisors who put together the matrix, because when we looked at this, it was a jigsaw puzzle of what's going on. You know, if you're here, you're there. If you're in the morning, whatever. But I thank you. One quick question I had for you before I move to my colleagues. How did you pick the subjects for the PD that day? I know what you're planning to do moving forward, but out of everything you've got, how'd you come to this?
We were working with different individuals to figure out what the most important thing was meaningful. Mm-hmm. So when we're having professional development throughout the year and they're saying, we wish we had more of this, or like the administrative assistants with Power School,
right.
They want more, they want to be able to understand it more. So it's practical use of their time because that's what they're doing all day long. That's kind of how we went about doing what we need to do.
Okay, and also, I'm very excited to see about the survey with the feedback from the staff moving forward, what they like, what they didn't like, what they suggest, because it's a good thing to get the feedback. I do appreciate that.
No question. And
Okay.
Mr. Mendez mentioned that, a lot of this, too, is wrapped around the strategic plan.
Yes.
So when we're, as we remember, the strategic plan is the big, and then we funnel it down, and then this is getting to the bottom of the funnel. We're really working on what it is that we need to evaluate to determine whether we're doing it well or not.
Thank you. Mr. Schwartzbaum, any comments or questions?
Just one overall, just a very nice job to Ms. Menendez and the superintendent on the PD Day. Thanks to all the people who are going to present, and I encourage everyone to participate.
Okay. Mr. Robertson?
No questions. It's very impressive. Well done.
Okay. Mr. Charles?
Just a quick comment. Mr. Rutsky, and you and I spoke over the last couple of years, though, about training, or I guess certification for the lunch aides and CPR and first aid. I think that's, I have been, for the last couple of years, I think that's something that we should get done. So I'd like to see, though this is a great step in the right direction, I'd like to see maybe if we can include that next go around as well or something.
Yeah, we were trying to pull that off, and when we had asked the principals to determine how many were available to attend, our attendance was not going to be enough that would warrant for have to get trained in not. So we're clearly going to train them in CPR. That's an important part that we have on for the next few months.
Okay, thanks. That's all I have, Madam President.
Mr. Mordecai? Ms. Mordecai, I'm sorry. I was looking at Ronnie.
Thank you. First of all, thank you very much to the administration and Mr. Rutsky for putting this together, in particular Mrs. De Mendez. I'm happy to see code.org here. I know we had the Hour of Code this past year, so I'm happy to see the training here. I have no questions. This is really great, and equally as impressive to see that we're really tackling the next generation science standards I've been asking for a while when we were really going to get into this. So I'm happy to see that we're having additional training on it. And also happy to see the survey. I was going to ask if we had done surveys in the past for each professional development. I sat on the professional development committee for the high school a few years ago, and I remember getting the feedback. So I was wondering if there was survey in the past that created this, in addition to the strategic plan.
There has been, and some of it's been the old-fashioned paper and pencil, and some of it's been electronic, and obviously this will be all electronic. So we're just, seeing what works, what doesn't work, what we follow up with, what do we need more of, et cetera. That's what we're looking for.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Rutsky?
Okay, next, again, I'm just going to talk quickly about a couple of things. As you know, we have a partnership with W.E.B. Du Bois Scholars Institute, which in the summertime we had 5 students go down to Princeton for 5 weeks and enjoy an absolutely terrific experience. We've also had that group come back to us and offer what's called a weekend workshop. There are 3 weekends that would be geared directly around students interested in STEM. The issue was it's for current sophomores and juniors who are interested in STEM and who are taking courses aligned to STEM. The dates are December 2nd through the 4th, March 3rd through the 5th, and May 5th through the 7th. Again, this is at Princeton University, but they're staying in a hotel, but their studies will be done at Princeton. The purpose of having this on tonight is to make sure the board would like to continue on with this partnership, which I am absolutely recommending. We have identified students who are interested in applying for this. And again, it is an application. It doesn't mean because they apply they get in. There's a very stringent entrance process to this, and it's for kids across the country. I do believe we will get a nice group of kids to participate, and I think they will like it very much. So the purpose of it tonight is just for you to say, yes, it's fine for us to continue on with this.
Any comments?
Yes.
You say yes?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, great program.
Excellent program.
Excellent program, great
All
program.
good.
Okay.
Very nice. Thank you.
Okay.
I do have one question.
Sure.
Included in the weekend program, will they also get a college tour? Because since these are juniors and seniors, that would be great.
Yeah, and they'll actually be on Princeton, and they'll be getting, talking to professors that are part of Princeton and other colleges within the state of New Jersey. So yes, they'll be looking at different things and having the opportunity to get an understanding of Princeton and the college life.
Will there be an instant decision there as well as a waiver of the application fee because they're in this program?
Yes, there is actually an application that they can put in to have some of the cost offset, and that is based on how much money comes into the household. But that's not done by us, that's done by the Scholars Institute. And those individuals, they take care of all that. They request the information that's needed, and the scholarship is through the Bristol-Myers Squibb Corporation. So, but it has nothing to do with what we're doing.
Isn't it true this program actually has like the highest conversion rate of all these types of programs at Princeton in terms of the students entering Princeton, I believe?
99% of the kids that are part of a program like this go off to college. We don't have any data that says they go to Princeton, but there are many kids in the program that end up going to Princeton. I don't know the percentage of how many, though.
In their last presentation, they said actually that they outcompete all the other programs in conversion, even for Princeton.
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
It's a good thing, and we're going to have some students who clearly are capable of getting into this program.
Absolutely
capable. Okay, in conjunction with this kind of conversation, we're also going to talk about the partnership I've been working on for months with NJIT, and we've been able to secure where NJIT and West Orange is going to have a partnership. Through that partnership, we'll be able to offer in September of next year college credit for our newly designed calculus and statistics class, the fundamentals of engineering and design, advanced architectural and engineering design, macroeconomics, and environmental science. Those are the classes that we will start with, and we obviously hope to build on that. Now, the beautiful thing about this with NJIT is our curriculum will align with their expectations, so the kids that sit in the calculus class do not have to take it for college credit. They have the ability to take it for college credit. They will have to pay for that piece, but the way the course is taught will meet the NJIT requirements for these courses. So there could be some students in the class that are getting college credit, and there may be some students in the class that choose not to. And that really gives kids an opportunity as well. The cost of it is very affordable, and we're really excited about the partnership. One other piece to the partnership is that one of our supervisors, Stephanie Soriano, who's our science supervisor, has been teaching the summer enrichment program for 8 years, and we are going to be discussing that with our parents and guardians from grades 4 through 11 to have the parents and guardians have the ability to send their child to that summer enrichment program. We're going to be setting up those meetings at the schools, having some NJIT individuals come out, as well as Stephanie, to talk specifically about the offerings. And NJIT is very excited to have the opportunity to work with us, as we are excited to be working with them. So again, on the agenda tonight is a recommendation from me to create that partnership and begin September of 17.
Great news. Thank you.
Okay, we discussed the Professional Development Day. I'm going to move down to the food service audit. I'm just going to ask Mr. Calavano to explain a little bit about the audit that's going to take place for our breakfast and lunch program.
So I guess you could say we were one of the lucky school districts to be chosen for this audit. We've been selected for the Department of Agriculture's administrative review for the current year that we're in, and this is the first year they're rolling out this administrative review. School districts will be audited. They're being audited between 3 and 5 years. This will be an every 3-year audit. It'll be an in-depth review of our national school lunch program and our school breakfast, plus the other program we have, which is the fresh fruit and vegetable program. The schools selected this year will be Kelly, Edison, and West Orange High School. There's 2 phases to this review. There's an off-site and an on-site. We're in the process of handling the off-site right now. On-site, we're thinking they're going to be coming in sometime January, February. And then they're going to look at a host of items such as free and reduced applications, monthly food menus, reimbursement documentation, reimbursable meal compliance, food safety. This is going to be a really in-depth review by the Department of Agriculture. So we're gearing up for them to come in. It would have been nice for us to have been chosen for the second year because they're just rolling this out. And as we're rolling it out, or as they're rolling it out, we're attending webinars so we can be familiar with the process. We can also, for those districts that are not being reviewed this year, they have an opportunity to review what's going on for the first year so they can prepare themselves for the second year and have an entire year to do it. But we're going to do our best so we can get through this with hopefully no recommendations.
Mr. Calavano, the review of the application process for free and reduced, are they going to be actually checking the forms themselves, or are they going to be checking the information that's been submitted?
They're going to be checking both the forms themselves, and it won't be 100%. They can, I guess, if you just use round numbers, if we have 1,000 applications, they may review 500, 600 applications. And then we also send out letters for parents so they can verify their income. Then they'll review that type of income. They're not going to ask the parent to submit documentation to see if they qualify. They're just going to review what we have on file.
Okay, because we are only allowed to review for verification 3%. Is that correct?
Right.
And we do that every year.
Yes, that
That
I know.
3% is reviewed every year to make sure that people are doing the right thing as far as reporting their financial status.
Got it. Any other questions from the board on this topic?
Yes, I have a
Ms. Mortifex?
comment. I know in the past we've had some negative reporting about us with the free and reduced lunch, particularly for breakfast. How are we going about advising parents that they're eligible? In particular, the report said that we have more children who are eligible than applied. How are we going about making sure that parents who are eligible apply?
One of the things that we talked about last year was breakfast after the bell.
Yes.
And one of the things that we are currently looking into, we have a grant for that, but the food service director, Josh, has done some work, and we've been meeting with different organizations to run a pilot. So we are looking in the next couple of months to come back to you, have a conversation with you, and then try it in one or maybe two of our schools to see how it goes. And the research and the word from those that have done it in districts our size and districts that are smaller is that it takes a couple of weeks to get some of the things worked out, but after that it goes very smooth. And we all know that all research shows when kids are hungry they don't perform as well, and when they're able to eat and they don't have to have it, it's an option that is available to all students. And the students that are on free and reduced would get it obviously at a much less rate or for free because of the grant, and it could be as low as $1 for a student who does not meet the criteria for free and reduced. But we're working on some of those details. We're going to come back to you in the next couple of months with a proposal and a possible pilot in one or two of the schools so we can see if we can get this rolling, and that would address some of the students who may be embarrassed for whatever the reason. There's a lot of reasons that kids don't do it or families don't do it. This would eliminate that piece and allow kids to have breakfast if they haven't had time to eat breakfast either from home or before school starts.
And now the application process is confidential so that there's no stigma attached to a child who applies.
That's
Right.
correct.
Okay.
And again, the nice thing about breakfast before the bell is they don't have to do anything. All they have to do is fill out whether they want to have breakfast or not, and every child is offered in across the entire school. So it kind of takes away that stigma,
Yes.
which we don't want. We want kids to eat and feel nutritious. So we're looking at that piece, but it'll be within the next couple of months. We'll bring that back to you.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
The other one important piece, too, parents should be reminded of is that if their income happens to change during the year, they can refile another application.
Oh, okay.
And that status can change from being a paid or reduced to actually a free student. So that's a possibility for anybody that has any type of status change.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm just going to go on to the next one with the reverse auction. Mr. Calavano?
Okay, so we had a reverse auction at the end of September. This is a little bit different than our usual sealed bid that we do for certain services or products. Usually for a bid, we'll receive sealed bids. We'll have an opening at a certain time, and we'll award it to the lowest bidder. Here, we actually have, it's considered a fully transparent bidding process for electric and gas, where the suppliers will actually log in to a platform, and the individuals that are logged in can actually see all the rates that the other suppliers are bidding. And the auction's open for 5 minutes, and so you actually see the bidding, the rates, the lowest rate. When you get down to the last 2 minutes within the auction, if somebody happens to come in with a lower rate, then the clock goes back to another 2 minutes. It'll continue doing that, so it's not like, last 2 seconds somebody puts in, a penny less. So it'll just the clock will keep going 2 minutes until we get at a point where that's it. All the bidders cannot, or the lowest bidders cannot put anything lower. So we did this for both the gas and electric, and electric is the main electric plus our street lighting. Our consultants that worked with us actually said to us that, in short, we did extremely well with all of the auctions. Your electricity rates are some of the lowest rates I've seen in the PSE&G utility in years. Going to market a few days prior to the end of the fiscal quarter definitely proved to be a good timing as suppliers looked to liquidate losses, and this was to the advantage of the West Orange Public Schools. So we locked in for a 2-year rate for both gas and electric. Gas will begin December 1st, and electric will begin in May.
I want to thank you, Mr. Calavano. I know I was a little pushy about having this auction happen, but I do understand that perhaps ACES was not exactly the best game in town, so I thank you, and I know you were quite successful in your former district with this reverse auction. So, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Mr. Retzky?
Okay, 2 other pieces. We have an ESIP update, which will take place next board meeting. We'll have a couple individuals coming in to do a brief update to bring all the public and board up to speed on where we are in each building and the process itself. The strategic plan update, will be having a standing update every board meeting starting next meeting in November 21st. May not be a complete update because there's a lot of things in the strategic plan, but we will pick and choose so we make sure that we're touching on the areas for every meeting. And with that, I'm going to just give you the HIB report. For those that are new in the public, this is required by the state that the Board of Education reviews and evaluates whether it should be approved, rejected, or modified. And the document they're looking at now would be on the next board meeting. The document from the prior board meeting is on the agenda tonight for approval. Any questions from the board?
Actually, yes, Mr. Retzky, I do have a question on incident number 14.
Okay.
It just seems like a lot with the result as it was.
As far as it not being founded?
Yeah.
The issue is that it depends, and that's a statement that goes in the box for the protected category. But remember, it has to align to the law, not just because it's something that's written in there. So you can see over on the right the discipline imposed, meetings with the parents, meetings with the counselors, etc. Even if it isn't a founded case, there still can be discipline because it's a conflict, or that it's something that we need to address through the guidance counselor, parent meetings, etc.
Okay. Any other comments from the board?
I just have one thing, and I've noticed this at prior meetings. Liberty always seems to appear more often on this report than any other school. Is this a lack of training, or is something else happening that the board should be aware of?
No, it's neither or none of the above. It's that a child or children made a mistake, and the law calls for an investigation, which they must do. And if it meets the criteria, then it is founded. And if they don't, it's not founded.
Okay. I thought maybe the coordinator in charge could be over-reporting, or that's where I was going with that. Because I know the law is quite broad, of course, to protect the child. So.
Yeah, middle school is an interesting time.
Oh, it's tough.
So
The teasing and the hair pulling and everything else.
The individuals who are in charge of this do a good job of this.
Okay.
So no, it's just I think it's the nature of middle school.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rutsky.
Okay, lastly, I just want to give a little bit of an update. I am very proud to announce how well we have done this fall in our athletics. I'm just going to kind of go down through our football. Obviously, Saturday night we beat East Orange. We are 6-3 right now, league champions. We are playing in the state tournament at Ridgewood on Friday night, the 11th at 7 p.m. Our junior varsity is 6-2, and our freshman is 5-3. So, congratulations to all those involved in the football program. Really a very nice year, and hopefully it continues Friday night. Our girls tennis were division champs, SEC division champs, 11-6, and our JV team was 9-0. So we have some promising kids down at the JV level. Girls volleyball, 21-7, SEC division champs. JV was 18-4. Freshmen were 9-5. Again, when you look down at that JV, that's important because that's the feeder system coming up to the varsity. So you have some kids down there that are doing really well together. Cheerleading, SEC division champions, SEC best stunt team in the division. Outstanding accomplishments by the cheerleading. Obviously, you know we have a new coach. He's doing a phenomenal job. The kids just doing really great work. Our boys soccer won today in the semifinals at Morristown, double overtime, 2-1. We play on Thursday, location to be determined. Again, JV 11-3-2, freshman 9-6-2. So a lot of congratulations go out to the kids and to the coaches of the boys, and as well, our girls soccer upset Ridgewood. They were ranked number 2. We upset them in double overtime. It was a phenomenal game. We were down 2-0 with about 10 minutes left, scored 2 goals, and went to overtime, went to penalty shootout, and we won in a double penalty shootout. So congratulations to coaches and the kids, really. And for those that don't know, they start a lot of really young kids in that team, so the future is very promising. And I know there's a wonderful group down at the middle school level that's coming up to jump in there and be part of that older group and the younger group. So it's a nice blend there now. Girls cross country, 5-4. Freshmen SEC champions. Boys cross country were 4-5. And as far as extracurriculars, not to be outdone, our marching band.
Yes.
October 22nd, they were the Group 5 state champions, and then November 6th, they were awarded the national championship out in Allentown. And for those that don't know, Allentown is a place that hosts the nationals often. Drum and Bugle Corps and others go out and compete out there. It's a phenomenal facility. And nothing but congratulations to all of those kids and the coaches and the parents and everybody that's involved in that. It's really a phenomenal piece. Yeah. National champions obviously speaks for itself. A couple other things. We had the Veterans Day celebration last Friday at the high school. We're going to make a couple of adjustments to that for next year and make sure a few other things happen. Everybody knows tomorrow is Election Day. Please get out and vote. We are closed on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Wednesday, as we discussed, is the PD day for the staff. Thursday and Friday is the NJEA convention down in Atlantic City. A couple of upcoming events. We have the high school chorus band on Wednesday, November 16th at 7, and curriculum night at the high school on November 17th. That's at 6:30. Obviously, we want to make sure that our 8th grade parents get to that curriculum night so they can be well versed on what's going to happen when their kids go to high school. That's all I have tonight.
Thank you very much, Mr. Retzky. At this time, if there's any questions from the public on agenda items only, please come up, state your name and address, and we'll respond at the end of a 3-minute period.
Hi, Tony Edelstein, 50 David Drive. First, it was a thrilling soccer game today. As a soccer dad, I can tell you that. The girls' soccer team is playing tomorrow, 2 o'clock at Montclair,
Yeah.
Fortunato Field, so I'd encourage anybody to attend that. I see that we're on page 8, we're paying over $75,000 to local private schools, and then on page 10, that was seems for security, and on page 10, we're paying local private schools about $37,000 for technology. I know there are some state requirements, but I was just hoping that the board could go into some detail about what the state requirements are for our obligations to fund these private schools in our district, and whether that money comes directly from our board and our taxes or from the state. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on the agenda? Okay. Mr. Edelstein, it's a pass-through. Do you want to, Mr. Calavano?
Sure, it is. When you look at the resolution, it's non-public security state aid, so it doesn't come through our budget, doesn't come through, well, it comes through our budget, but it's not, they're not using our funds, they're not using our taxpayers' funds. They're entitled to a certain dollar figure per pupil. They run through our district. We actually, when they want to purchase something, we do the purchase order for them. The goods come to us, we stamp the property of West Orange, and then we ship it out to the non-public school. Any funds that are not used by the non-public schools have to be returned to the state.
Okay.
Ms. Lab, can I just make one more point?
Go ahead.
I just want to thank a couple individuals. I'm not sure, I know that we spoke about this. Last year, Mr. Trink, who obviously is the attorney in town, invited me to his office to talk about trying to set up something where some of our high school kids could visit the Essex County Courthouse and learn all about the ongoings throughout the day. And I thought it was a phenomenal opportunity. I invited Mr. Moore and a few others to come, and what we were able to set up was that every sophomore in 7 visits was able to get down there and spend the day. And I went down the last day. Mr. Edison was actually there as well, and 2 of the teachers. So 3 of the classes, they broke it up and came down, took buses down. The last bus ride was pretty rough because the traffic was horrific. But they were able to speak, the judges were able to speak, Judge Raven and Judge Winters was able to speak directly to our kids and talk about the role they play and things that are happening. But also, they were actually able to see a case that was going on. And the case was where an armed robbery took place and somebody got shot. And there was an eyewitness on the stand. And our kids and the rest of us were sitting listening to us, and it was really, you could see the kids were so engaged in it because it's real. You know, it's the CSI and the, you know, the things that they see on TV, but it was real. And then the judge took time to talk to the kids afterwards, Judge Raven, and he was phenomenal. And he happens to be, one of the judges happens to be a graduate of Mountain High. And we've had a lot of individuals that went through Montclair, or through West Orange that were graduates of either Montclair or West Orange that are there, and they welcome us with open arms. So it was one of those that you could see the kids were excited, they're asking really great questions. Prosecutors came out, defendants came, lawyers, the attorneys came out, and just really interacting with the kids beautifully. And then Mr. Trank was there and asking some really good questions to the kids, and how many do you think this, and what do you think about this? So I really wanted to thank all those involved. Steve Oshowski, who's the supervisor for social studies, was part of setting us up with the teachers and getting the buses lined up with the bus department, and with Rich Trank taking care of that part and setting up all the judge and everything. It was just a great experience. We sent thank yous to everybody. We're going to do a little follow-up with some judges and a few of the teachers, and and Mr. Oshowski to really talk about how can we make it better for next year. But it's one of those that the feedback from the students, we've been asking them for their feedback, and from the teachers, one of those, they said it was really outstanding, an outstanding experience. And I forgot to mention it, and I just wanted to come back to it.
Oh, thank you. Actually, I was a juror in Judge Raven's pool once, and he's a very interesting character. He's a good role model. I mean, he's just a very interesting guy, and I'm sure Mr. Trank probably has an in with Judge Civilli somehow. So
Yes, it was a really great
It's a great thing,
opportunity,
though.
and very thankful for all those that were helping make it happen.
Great, thank you. Okay, let's move on to the agenda. May I have a motion for Personnel 1 through 5 with the addendum?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion from the board on Personnel 1 through 5? No?
Just in case, there are any questions, could somebody explain the, because I saw a question in social media and just thought we should answer it. The rescission that's there regarding Mr. Hellier and Mrs. Mapes, so people don't misconstrue.
Sure. Yeah, sure. So on here under rescissions, we have to take off Wendy Mapes, who is our director for the musicals, and John Hellier, who was the assistant director. Miss Mapes is unable to do it because she is out on a leave. So anytime you approve somebody, you have to take them out of that role and then re-advertise for that. So Miss Mapes will come out. Mr. Hellier has indicated he is interested in being the director, but we have to take them off the agenda, and then we have to advertise, which we have done. And then if Mr. Hellier is the person who does the spring musical, he will be on the next agenda as the director, and then there will be somebody else indicated as the assistant director.
Thank you.
And just as a point of record, under Personnel number 3, H and I, those are due to the ratification of the Local 68 contracts. Any other comments from the board on personnel items? Seeing none, Mr. Calavano?
Mr. Charles?
Yes.
Mrs. Mordecai?
Yes.
Mr. Schwartzbaum?
Yes.
Vice President Robertson?
Yes.
President Lab?
Yes. May I have a motion for curriculum instruction 1 through 6 plus the addendum? Or
I'll make
inclusive
that
of the
motion.
addendum, I'm sorry.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I will second.
I'd like to actually turn the floor over to Ms. Mordecai. She is very much responsible for the initiation of number 3, and obviously the superintendent brought this to fruition, but I know as of 5 years ago, Ms. Mordecai was pushing for this. Sandy?
Yes, absolutely. I'm really happy to see this program come to fruition. When I first got on the board, I had met with one of the directors at Kean University to bring the Teaching the Holocaust and Prejudice Reduction program to West Orange. And a few years ago, I believe about 20 staff members took the class, but it didn't result in high school students getting college credit. Now the whole process is complete, thanks to Mr. Rutsky. Basically, any teacher who takes the 2 classes will get 6 master's degree credits free of charge and tuition free. And they got that the last time, but what happens after that is we're supposed to have similar courses at the high school, and then the high school students would also get college credits tuition free for these classes. So I'm very happy to see this come to fruition. A part of the impetus for me doing this is, some of you may know that I do have a Jewish background, but this is not just about me. I really believe that we should have a diversity of curriculum at all levels throughout the district, and I was very happy to find this course. And it's also in line with the Amistad Act. So I'm really happy to see this, and I know I'd reached out to Jay Wecht about this program as well, and he was excited about it. And every year he brings a really nice program to Roosevelt Middle School where Mrs. Malkin presents her memories of the Holocaust. I believe she was a little girl, 3 or 4 years old, when it all took place. So it was very moving production every year, and this year we had it this past May. So I'm really happy to see this. So thank you again, Mr. Rutsky, for all your hard work on this. I started with this under Dr. Cavana. So Dr. Cavana and then Jim and Mr. O'Neill. And so I'm glad to see the whole thing come full circle. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mordecai, for your persistence, and Mr. Rutsky for seeing this through.
Yes.
It's a great thing for our students and our staff. Any other comments on curriculum 1 through 6? Okay, Mr. Calavano.
Mr. Charles?
Yes.
Mrs. Mordecai?
Yes.
Mr. Schwartzbaum?
Yes.
Vice President Robertson?
Yes.
President Lab?
Yes. May I have a motion for Finance Special Services 1 through 2 and Business Office 1 through 14?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Thank you. I would like to thank the Betty Madalena Foundation for their very generous donation to the district. What we're going to be receiving is Stand to Learn desk. Mr. Rutsky, can you?
Yeah, it's an opportunity instead of kids sitting and adults sitting all day long, or not all day, but periodically. This gives them the opportunity to stand up and pull the desk up and be able to work with it standing, at a whatever height the student or adult is.
Okay, and this is going to classify
That's
students?
correct.
Okay, terrific. Again, thank you to the foundation for this donation.
I'm trying to get that desk at work.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, some of my coworkers have received it already.
All righty. Any other comments from the board on finance items?
I have one, Madam President.
Okay, Mr. Charles?
Mr. Cavanagh, page 8, item number 6, the state contract vendors. Though I'm fully aware of it, can you explain some of the benefits the district has by doing business with the state contract vendor?
Well, the state actually went on behalf of the entire state of New Jersey for the bidding process. So they do the bid opening, they look at the items that are bid, and they select the lowest bidders. And we have an opportunity to piggyback off of them and use their lowest vendors.
Okay, thank you.
So this is a new requirement for us because we have new auditors. Each year, we should be approving a list of state contract vendors that we utilize. So you'll probably see this again in about another 6 months because we'll be updating the list.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Retzky, can you explain on page 9, item number 13, regarding the Title I Parent Involvement Liaison?
Yeah, this is a person who's not a district employee, but gets paid to coordinate parent involvement, and we're trying to get as many parents involved as possible. As you know, Washington's a Title I school, as is Hazel. So this person has different meetings, and all the money is funded through the Title I grant.
Is there a plan to do this at Hazel as well?
We're looking into it, yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
That was going to be my question. What about Hazel?
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions from the board? Mr. Calavano?
Mr. Charles?
Yes.
Mrs. Mordecai?
Yes.
Mr. Schwartzbaum?
Yes.
Vice President Robertson?
Yes.
President Lab?
Yes. Okay, may I have a motion for D1, HIB report?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All righty. Reports from the board president and board members. Let's go this way. Ms. Mordecai, got anything for us this evening?
Well, as usual, Mr. Rutsky stole our thunder,
Always.
but I do have something that he didn't attend. I attended the Kelly School karaoke night.
Wow.
Yeah. My first time.
Alrighty.
What a fun night. Who knew that there were so many good singers at Kelly School? So maybe we should look to expand that next year. Maybe we should have a Kelly Idol.
Was Dr. Polera
Just
there?
a thought. Oh, Dr. Polera, of course, was there, and she sang. She always
I'm
does.
sure she did.
Yes.
Sounds like a
yes.
fun night.
And fortunately or unfortunately, there are pictures to prove it. And some video.
Okay. Well, let's go to the video. Mr. Charles, got anything tonight?
Just want to publicly congratulate the teams this year in the fall season. Done a tremendous job representing West Orange. And I can't help but think that some of the commitment we made as a board in the moving of the conditioning and the strength and conditioning coach has paid off tremendously from talking to the coaches and the kids involved. So Things are moving in the right direction.
I would agree, Mr. Charles. I've talked to several of the coaches, and they really are religious about being in that weight room, getting stronger. And this is the time of the season where kids get hurt. They're running down and getting tired. So I couldn't agree with you more.
Yes.
That's all I have, Madam President.
Very nice.
Well, I have a quick question then for Mr. Charles or Mr. Rutsky, since I'm not exactly sporty spice here on the board. By these kids doing so well this fall, does that offer greater opportunities for scholarships?
Absolutely.
Sure.
I would think it does, but again, scholarships are individual, and a lot of this is team. But there
Okay.
are opportunity for individual kids. I do know of kids on all the teams right now that are being looked at, and the thing you got to remember is not everybody's a senior. There's a lot of underclassmen in a lot of these teams. So, but they're getting, when you start winning and you're beating teams you're not supposed to beat, you get some recognition. People start to come and look. And that's all you want to do. You just want to get them to the table. Once they get to the table, then your skills prove themselves.
Yeah. Sometimes what happens is that they're coming looking at one player, and then the scouts are there, and they're seeing,
Two or
who's
three.
that kid? Who's that kid? Who's that guy? So
Great.
that pays off.
Okay. Mr. Schwartzbaum?
Just to piggyback on what
Hold
Mrs.
on.
Lab just said, also, I know there's a different guidance process being a sports mom. So are the kids already, sitting, the seniors already sitting with the guidance counselor, the athletic director, their coaches, and making sure that they have tapes and everything together and going through the clearinghouse?
Absolutely, and that's something we've been, especially the newer coaches. The older coaches know that, but the newer coaches making sure that starts before the season begins, because they're playing and the season goes very quickly. It falls a very quick season. So there's a lot of work that's been done for our seniors and making sure that the tapes get out, and the coaches are good. They really understand. And some of even the Division III coaches, where they don't get a chance to come out as much, when you send them a tape, they will send somebody out if they see something on the tape that they like. So the coaches are doing a good job of that.
I know we used to have a speaker come every year to talk about the clearinghouse process to make sure that our coaches, are we still doing that?
We are. We made that part of our ASOP presentation. He does a very, very fine job, and he's well-versed and very knowledgeable. So he's a good speaker, and the kids listen, the parents listen very closely.
Good, great. Thank you.
Mr. Schwartzbaum?
I'm good.
You're good. Mr. Robertson?
Kind of piggybacking on the sports thing, I think it also is a credit to the board. We had some tough budget decisions to make, and we maintained the coaching levels for many of these teams, because that's always a consideration in the process, and it's paying off. We're not only competitive, we're reaching new heights in so many sports. I had the joy of attending Almost Maine. It was quirky and quite an unexpected in every scene, and our kids did a wonderful job acting it. And because it was an interesting adaptation, I think that our director must have also just really done a phenomenal job. But it was a joy.
Okay, thank you. May I have a motion for the next board meeting to be held 8 p.m. on November 21st, 2016 at West Orange High School?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All righty. Time for petitions and hearings from the citizens. If anybody has any questions or comments, please feel free to come up to the microphone, identify yourself, name and address. You'll have 3 minutes, and the board will respond at the end of the evening. Anybody? Okay, got one.
Hi, I'm
Hi.
Krista Punslon. I'm at 19 Colony Drive East. So as a kindergarten parent, I believe that the kindergarten classes at Hazel would benefit greatly from having an aide. There are differing levels of kindergarten readiness in the classes, and depending on the population of the class, one adult for 18 or more children isn't always enough. There are children who need extra attention that are suffering, as are the kids that are ready and eager to learn. I spoke with Mr. Rutsky about this, and I spoke with the principal about it today, and I was told that there's a New Jersey law prohibiting aides in classrooms less than 25 children. It appears to me that the law actually states if there are 25 children or more, there's an aide required in the class, but I've not seen anything about aides being prohibited. I spoke with somebody at the Essex County Department of Education, and he said that aides are at the discretion of each district. And I don't really understand the discrepancy between what the law says and what multiple parents have been told by the administration. And I would hope that we could reevaluate this. And I'd like to fully understand who makes this determination and how it's made.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi,
Hello.
my name is Fatu, 12 Elliott Place. I'm going to piggyback to what Krista was just saying. I have a 4th grade at Hazel and a kindergartner. And as a Title I school, I believe that aides are needed and required in the classroom because a class size of 18 children needs more than one adult. Because a lot of our children are not, I'm really nervous. I'm gonna.
Okay.
So a lot of our children are not, English is not their first language, just like me. Mm-hmm. So some of these kindergartners come to the classroom speaking another language and not any English whatsoever. And I do get that as a Title I school, we have special resource teachers that pull the kids aside and work with them, but they need more help than that. Just having one teacher dealing with 18 kids, 18 5-year-old and 6-year-old is a lot. Help is needed because we have behavioral issues. We have, nose running, shoes, and, all of that stuff that one adult has to deal with. So help is definitely needed so we can get the kids at the same level. Because I do understand that, at the beginning in kindergarten, they're supposed to learn to read. That's the whole, point of it. So they're starting from an AA and they need to get to a D. So, and I do get that when they come in, they're all at different level. But not all of our parents can afford to take a preschool child and pay $1,200 for a preschool to get them to the point where they can, recognize their letters and the alphabet and, the different sounds of the letter A and all of that. So and I do get that all schools probably have the same issue, but as a Title I school, it's more of a burden for our teachers. So if we have an aide, which we have always had, because like I said, I have a 4th grader, and he had an aide. He loved Miss Bad. And this is a woman who, kept checking on him as he went, further, through the grades. So I do believe that we will benefit greatly from it. Our children will benefit greatly from it. And that we have parents who also, our parents work really long hours, and they don't necessarily have the money to pay for that preschool or to sit down and read with the child. So for the Title I kids, I feel like this is, and school, this is something that should be looked at and reviewed by the board.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you. Okay. Hello.
Hi, another Hazel parent here. My name is Sarah. I live at 47 Oak Ridge Road. I want to piggyback again on what Fatu said and what Krista said. My daughter is in kindergarten. I also have a 3rd grader. My son had an aide when he was in kindergarten, and I think that really helped. Right now, my daughter has a fabulous kindergarten teacher, Mr. Roberts. He does a great job with the class. He does a great job controlling the class. However, he also has a student teacher. So I'm wondering whether or not we can explore the aides, but also are there any other options for us where, can all the teachers have a student teacher? Is there something that we can do so that our teachers have that support in the kindergarten classrooms at Hazel?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Tony Edelstein, 50 David Drive. I was wondering if there's ever been any exploration about putting a traffic light at the corner of Alyssa Drive and PVW exiting the Degnan parking lot. I know that The board doesn't have jurisdiction, it's state or county, but I just wonder if there have been any exploration of that. Thank you.
Any other questions this evening? Okay.
I just wanted to clarify, at the recent forum, there was mention that, for...
If you could just please identify yourself.
Alan Grossman.
Thank you.
With West Orange, 4 North Coing Place. It was just mentioned at the recent forum that there were 4 assistant principals at the elementary school. I think you pointed out in a note that that wasn't totally accurate. I just wanted to make sure that the public record was totally accurate, so maybe if you can just address that and the reasons for why the assistant principals were brought on. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments this evening before we start to respond? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Rutsky.
Okay, we currently, I'll start with Mr. Grossman. We currently have 2. We have one in Redwood. We have one in Gregory, and we are looking to place one. We're having a search. We have an interim right now in Washington. Those schools are, the Gregory and Redwood in particular, are very large elementary schools. It's like having another administrator there, obviously, to help with the entire process. The number of evaluations, because of the number of staff, et cetera. There's a lot of needs. And looking at Washington, the size of Washington, and the diversity of Washington, there are different needs in each building. So we're addressing those needs as we can. Mr. Edelstein, we have looked, we absolutely, there's been a lot of discussion over the last year about a light there. And I can let anybody on the board talk about it. I've been sitting. You want to talk about that one?
Oh yeah.
Okay, I'll come. You can. I'll come back to that then. As far as the kindergarten, I for a couple of parents that spoke to Mr. Coaches today, I was able to speak to Mr. Coaches and provide the statute number. So I'll give it to you. And again, if you want to call me tomorrow, I'll be working. We're doing different things, even though the district's closed, or Wednesday. It's 6A:32-8.3. And it indicates the maximum enrollment for a kindergarten class shall be 25 students per teachers. The executive county superintendent of schools may give permission to increase the number of students in a non-Abbott classroom, provided another teacher, an auxiliary teacher, or teacher aide is employed full-time, provided the increased size. This goes back when the regulations changed. The aides were no longer permitted to be in classrooms unless you had 25 or more. Now, what's important to note is every 3 years we have to do something what's called a review from the Department of Education. They call it CUSAC. And they look at every single person that we employ, and they have to have the identification of where they are working within the district. So just understand that this isn't being made up, but this is the code 6A:32-8.3, and it's number 3 in that area. Now, as far as the kindergarten, and I spoke to 2 of the 3 parents who got up and spoke tonight. As I indicated, I would talk to Mr. Coaches to make sure, and he's met with the kindergarten or is meeting with them to identify the students and to try and help them, to have conversations with parents and determine if there's something else we can do to help the teachers and obviously the students. So it's obviously very hard to teach kindergarten. Primary grades are very challenging, and to provide that support. And one of the challenges we have in West Orange is you have children who come in and they've been in 2 years of preschool. They get a lot of support at home, and then we have others that aren't able to have their child go to preschool. So you have quite a diversity academically when they come into that class. So that's a challenge in itself, and we're working towards trying to provide the teachers with what else we can do to assist them in that process.
Mr. Edelstein, how about Mr. Rutsky? Before I respond to Mr. Edelstein, could you respond to the idea of student teachers and the frequency that they come into the district and what their length is?
Yeah, one of the things about student teachers, actually, it's going to be changing in the very near future, but currently they come in for a semester, which is basically about a half a year, and we have about 25 of them across the district. And what's important is that we match them up with the appropriate teacher who will be a great mentor for the student teacher, but also they have a certain certification that they must do their work in that grade level or subject area. For instance, there's now a K-6, there's a middle school cert with a specific subject area, or the high school, a 612 cert. There's a lot of different certifications. So we couldn't have somebody who wanted to get certified in middle school mathematics teach at the elementary level, because that person's certification, the student teaching, has to be done in the area where they're trying to secure that certification. There's not a lot of student teachers throughout the school district. We promote them, we take them from different colleges, but there's just not enough for all of the kindergartens to have a student teacher.
Thank you.
Mr. Rutsky,
I
I'm
have
sorry.
a question.
I have a question as well.
Ladies first.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
What happened to equality?
But isn't the law actually now being revised that the student teachers have to be with us for an entire year? So-
Yes, that'll
Yeah.
begin September
2007.
of
2017.
2018.
Oh,
So
18.
not next
18.
September, the following September.
Okay.
Correct.
One more
So that'll
thing.
be a 1 year. They'll be here for a full year instead of just a half a year.
One more thing. If we were to increase aids, aren't there sufficient funds under Title II that would be applicable to Title I schools?
Again,
Or
the
Title
issue.
IIA.
Well, the issue is that an aid is really only appropriate with if a child is classified, et cetera. There's other ways that it can be done, but it just can't be a general education aid.
Okay, but I thought that under Title II or Title IIA, we could use Title IIA or Title II funding to pay for aids in Title I schools, particularly Title I schools.
Only if they're for, again, it can't be a gen ed aid. It can be if somebody is classified, if a child is classified, has a one-to-one aid, things of that nature, yes.
Or if,
It can-
or if a significant ESL population is in the class?
It depends, and again, it depends on the number of kids and things of that nature, but that's separate from the general education class. That's an ESL class.
Okay.
Mr. Rutsky, okay, understanding the current statute, what I'm hearing, though, is that beyond the normal challenges of the number of kids, the ratio of kids, the behavioral challenges, and the multiple levels, which are always a challenge from a differentiated instruction standpoint, we also have children who are from, some of whom don't know English or know very little English, that English is not their first language, and you may have multiple languages within a classroom. That is a unique and very challenging circumstance. For any teacher, 18 kids in a kindergarten class is already a heck of a challenge. Multiple levels, already a heck of a challenge. Behavioral stuff, already a challenge. Now, multiple languages and multiple levels of competence in the language, isn't there some sort of provision, something that we could look at to explore getting the help that's needed?
Yeah, again, the issue is you have to identify the student first, and what you can't do is you can't classify a child based on a language barrier.
Right.
So that is something that has been brought up about, well, why can't these children be classified? And the answer is because we're not allowed to do that. The language barrier does not allow for that to happen. But as I said when I was discussing this, we're looking at lots of options to try and not just, in particular, we're looking at Washington and Hazel because of the diverse population, but also the other 5 elementaries.
Well, is there a way to address it from an ESL standpoint?
There is, but remember, we're talking about kindergarten students, and then they have to be identified. So when they're tested either in the summer or when they come in, there's a process that you have to go through, and it's not just West Orange. This is across the state. So we're looking at all those pieces, but it takes time for the ESL piece to be put into place.
At what point are they actually tested and identified? If the kid is in a kindergarten class and can't speak English, shouldn't that have been identified beforehand?
Well, it is identified, and then there's services that are provided to the child, but that service takes time to set up. The piece is done. It can be done even in the summertime when the kid is tested, or when the child comes in, or when we start the school year out. That's not the issue. The issue is that, okay, we've identified this. Now what services can be provided? Then it falls under the ESL component of the day. So there's different levels within the ESL, and we can talk more. We can certainly talk more because we're doing some work right now with the ESL program. But the idea is it's just not that you identify them and they go into a separate class. And, you know, the inclusion of ESL, one of the most important pieces is that they have the English role models.
Got to have the English
so
role
it's
models.
both.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the challenge we have, is trying to help the teachers with those multiple barriers while also understanding that the kids need to have the English role models. And that's what I'm saying. There's lots of challenges to this.
Understood. Is this an opportunity? Is there any opportunity to think out of the box and possibly pilot a new approach, given that we have this level of diversity, multilingual diversity?
Well, there's always the possibility. The idea is that we have to identify who the kids are, and the conversation that was had with Mr. Coaches is let's identify who the kids are. Sit with the teachers, let's talk, let's figure it out. Who is there? Who are the students that aren't coming in with the proper skill set, et cetera, and then we start to address it because they need to know who they are and what needs to be done.
I understand, but I guess we're now in the month of November. It would be great if we could explore the process so that they could be identified earlier.
And that's exactly what's happening. That's why I said that the ESL program is being evaluated, especially at the elementary level, to determine, there's different levels of students and their ability, and how long they stay and where they go, et cetera. There's a push for, should the teacher be coming into the class and providing students who are capable of the inclusion? Should they be pulled out? There's a lot of pieces that we're looking at, and Mr. Mendez is certainly leading that charge.
And you couldn't have a better person doing that.
Okay, I'd like to respond both to Mr. Edelstein and to Mr. Grossman. Mr. Grossman first. As Mr. Brutsky indicated, we have two assistant principals right now at Redwood and at Gregory. Just so you are aware, the numbers at those two elementary schools surpass the numbers at any of our middle schools. Mm-hmm. Our middle schools have a principal, an assistant principal, two guidance counselors, a child study team, and an SRO. At our elementaries, we have a guidance counselor and a principal. So by sheer numbers, we are of the opinion that it would be best if we do have assistant principals at those schools. And as Mr. Rutsky indicated, the other areas of concern for Washington with the high numbers, and again, that it's a Title I. Washington, by definition, holds more than Hazel. Hazel is a smaller school. Washington is much larger. But that is the rationale behind that. Again, those two elementary schools surpass the number of the population of the three middle schools that have much more support in place. Mr. Edelstein, I have been, since I've been on the board, requesting that there be a light at Alyssa Drive. As you know, the topography on Pleasant Valley Way, particularly for what I call baby drivers as they're learning to drive, when Pleasant Valley Way going north, you cannot see even an experienced driver, and the kids, they inch up, and as our drivers or our students get their license, by June, it's a scary scene out there. Not to mention when you have people coming to our schools who are not familiar with our schools and they're here for sporting events, it's an accident waiting to happen. So, of course, we've got multiple responses from the county where, it's a county road, as you know. And one of the stories or one of the explanations I heard was because there is a light right by Kelly Elementary, they can't have a light over here. And I said, well, wait a minute now. Look at Northfield Avenue.
Right.
You have a light by St. Cloud School. You have a light by McDonald's. You have a light by the next gas station. Mm-hmm. So that doesn't really ring true for me. So I really don't know. And I know Roz Moskowitz, God bless her soul, is trying everything in the world to make Pleasant Valley Way a much safer place. 5 years ago, no, it was longer than that. 6 years ago, I had advocated that the SRO at the high school, when the students are leaving, I felt that it would be much safer, instead of whatever they might be doing. It was Officer Morella at the time, that he'd be out there directing traffic, stop, go, let's go. And the response was, no, it's too dangerous for him to be out there. Well, okay, so let me put a 16-year-old who just got their license, who's, trying to look cool and talk on the phone and drive into traffic. So I don't know what to do, Tony. I mean, we've been trying, and if Roz and her persistence I don't know. And it's like, do we need a horrific accident to make it happen? I don't know. So again, now we have, is it Officer Krimmel who's at the high school these days? I don't even know anymore.
Officer Diaz.
But,
Officer
you know,
Diaz.
again, if there's any way the superintendent can speak to, you know, the chief of police, get somebody out there, but again, they said, no, it's too dangerous, and no kidding. I don't know what to do, Tony, but yeah, we've been trying and find a wall and bang your head against it, and that's what I've been doing since I got on the board, one of the things. Thanks for bringing it up again, though. Maybe somebody's listening out there who has that magic power. I just don't have it. Okay, any other questions or comments from the board this evening on public comment? Okay, may I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, good night.